Over the years, I served many people who were in prison and did heinous crimes, and we never judged them. We're here for the families. When they request us, we just go ahead and service them.
I want to update our breaking news right now. Charles Manson, one of the most notorious murder masterminds in U.S. history, has died at the age of 83.
I was anticipating that the remains would be in the freezing area. And that's not what the case was. The largest problem I had was that, just like if you're in a bathtub, you all know what happens. You're in a bathtub for an extended period of time, your fingers start to wrinkle up from the water and everything. And there were some fluids in the bottom of the bag that he was in, even though they had some type of an absorbent cloth. But that many months, that's what I was dealing with, to the point that it was just beyond repair.
It's important to keep it from turning into a circus.
You don't really want to be known for being killer's grandson.
If I wanted to kill somebody, I'd take this book and beat you to death with it, and I wouldn't feel a thing.
I'll get phone calls out of the blue. It'll be an unknown caller, so I'll send it over to the voicemail. Yeah, they tell me they want to kill me. They know where I live. It's like, why you want to kill me? They know what my grandfather did. That's 50 years ago.
Charles Manson is the quintessential, most notorious murderer ever.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
Friday night in Los Angeles, a movie actress and 4 of her friends were murdered. The circumstances were lurid. The movie actress was Sharon Tate.
On the weekend of August 8th, 1969, Charlie Manson directed several of his family members to go to the house where Sharon Tate lived and kill everyone in it.
A short time later, not far away, a middle-aged couple was found murdered in similar circumstances.
He wanted to show that the beautiful, rich people needed to be killed, murdered.
Los Angeles police have connected some members of a nomadic gang with the murders of actress Sharon Tate and others.
It was such a horrific murder that it dominated the headlines at the time. A family of crazy people who were under the influence of Charles Manson, that he was able to convince them to do this. It was just a shocking incident.
All the elements are present for one of the most sensational murder trials in American history.
He was a detestable excuse for a human being. I mean, Manson was in it for Manson. Everyone else existed to do his bidding.
The shaved heads and the X's in the courtroom When Charlie would nod and they would say the same thing in unison, I mean, I've never seen anything quite like that.
The death penalty for 7 senseless murders. Not only was the sentence appropriate, but almost compelled in this case, so death in the gas chamber.
Do you believe that there should be a death penalty?
A death penalty?
Yes, for someone who commits a murder or something like that.
Aren't we all born to die?
Okay. Here we go.
Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
We knew this was coming, right?
Yep.
One more.
I met Jason when I was 22. I told my mom, I said, hey, I met this guy. And, you know, he said that he's the grandson of Charles Manson, and her face, you know, her eyes got real big. And she said, well, we're not going to tell your dad about this for quite some time. Jason wanted to just make sure that he was taken care of. If he would have been left to the prison, they would have just discarded the remains in the trash. Anybody whose grandparent passes away deserves the same. And so, you know, he'd do the same for his grandma. He'd do the same for anybody.
My mom's calling me, and she's asking me, you know, is your grandfather dead? You know, my mom never calls me with a question about my grandfather, Charles Manson. Even though my grandfather did some horrible things, he still needed to be taken care of in death. Whenever we have a family member that is passing, everybody wants to be there. I was there for my grandmother. I was there for my father. I was there for my dad. At the end, he just needed to be taken care of properly, like every elder should be. You look at my grandfather, you look at Charles Manson, you look at the life that he led, the pressure that I get from being his grandson is overwhelming.
When we picked Grandpa up, we were very surprised with the condition of his remains. We all knew that it had been several months since he passed away, but unfortunately, instead of placing him in their freezing section, he was placed in a refrigerator. And so his appearance is denigrated more than we would have preferred.
Funeral director was beside himself at how they left him at his time of death. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, just imagine a fruit put in the fridge for 4 to 6 months.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned. I haven't had a chance to really prepare him for what we call a viewing. He's here, he's had some basic work, but appearance-wise, I think I could really make him look more like himself. You can see him right now if you'd wish, but I'm going to tell you that it may be a little difficult right now, and I just want to be sensitive to how you're going to be remembering things.
I wish I could say there were some moments that I can embrace to cling to and really have a relationship with my grandfather, Charles Manson. Because of the situation that was going on, the evil things that he was involved with, I didn't have that.
It's not my grandfather. It's not my family member. I have to support my husband.
It's still going to be a little rough because I can only do so much repair. I'm just going to step aside and you guys can do what you need to do right now. And if you think you just want to spend a few moments, we can do that too.
Thank you. It was more of a frustration. You don't want a family member thrown out with the rest of the prisoners.
What do you do with this guy? You know, do you bury him? Do you have a service? Do you, what do you do?
You know, once you're there, you want to do the right thing, and the right thing is what I've always seen in my life. You have a funeral, you show the respects, and if you bury the body or the ashes, that's just what you do. My name is Jason Freeman, and I'm here to claim my grandfather. I just want to give my grandfather a proper burial. I want to stick him in the ground so we can put the boogeyman to sleep and let society see that.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be related to Charles Manson. I'm just curious, how do you go through life with that name?
Family comes first.
What kind of relationship did you have?
Jason's mom really, she swept it under the rug. Nobody was to talk about anything, pretty much because it was the evil part of the story. They didn't want that negativity around to be involved in Jason's life.
Where I live is a small town. I mind my own business. I stay away from people because I don't want them to ask me about it. Because those people that commit those murders, they don't realize what they're doing to the people left behind.
All I ever heard was my grandfather. He's a killer, he's a boogeyman. He's a cult leader, he murdered all these people. There was so much hatred for Charles Manson that anytime his name came up, it like the house exploded, shut down. It's like it can't be talked about. Somebody give me some answers.
He was a lot of fun. He always made you laugh. And he was a gentle guy. He wasn't mean or nothing. He was really nice. He said he never knew his dad, had never met his dad. And so then when his dad committed those murders, he was just a kid and he didn't understand. When I met your dad, I met a boy named Jay White. That's what he called himself. Jay started telling us that his dad was Charles Manson, and we didn't even know who Charles Manson was.
Yeah.
Because, we were just kids. I never thought much about it. So the thing is, when Jay went to get his driver's license, his ID had to be Charles Millis Manson Jr. Because you can't go by Jay White legally.
Right. I didn't think it was legally changed.
No, not then. No, it wasn't. It wasn't legally changed. And to be honest with you, he had 2 Social Security cards, one in Jay White and one in Charles Manson Jr. Now, how he did that, I don't know. I don't even know how his mother did it. I don't know who did it. When anything legal come up, he had to go under Charles Manson.
Charles Manson is serving his life sentence for murder in San Quentin prison. That is where we talked with him. He never heard you express remorse. Have you never felt it?
Remorse for what? You people have done everything in the world to me. Doesn't that give me equal right?
We were never married.
Uh-huh.
And He just wasn't there when you were born.
Jay wasn't around a whole lot. After Jason was born, he pretty much took off. So she was kind of left as the single mom for Jason. So I'm sure there was a lot of anger and upset feelings there.
My mom and my father didn't see eye to eye. She walked away, she washed her hands of it, and didn't look back.
I didn't want him to think that that was in him, because that would have been his bloodline. You can't go into somebody's house and butcher people and not be evil. Jay told me that he tried to see his dad, but his dad wouldn't see him. If that's true or not, I don't know. But I believe that he did write to him or try to see him. The older your dad got, and the more he talked about Manson. I didn't want him around you because I didn't want you around those kind of people.
Why or what? You know, what do you...
He couldn't understand why his dad wouldn't see him. He couldn't understand why his dad wouldn't answer his letters. He wanted to see him because he wanted to meet his dad and find out why he never had a dad. Well, it should be pretty evident why you don't have a dad. He's a criminal. He's in prison. It hurt him the most in his lifetime, but I didn't want him shoving it over onto you because you just grew up completely different. So I was actually happy as you got older that I didn't have to deal with him.
Oh.
But I never said it to you. I never wanted to run your dad down in front of you or nothing.
With the murders, those choices snowballed into my family's life, right? They snowballed right into my father's life. He didn't ask for it. He was born into it. As a father, I think of my children. I want to be in their lives because I know what it's like to not have my father in my life.
I met Jay in the probably mid-70s, just going into the bar with my friends after work. And at that time, the Manson murders were only 5-6 years ago. You could actually tell from, after you got to know him and talking to him and stuff, you could see there was a lot of anxiety that he was definitely holding within.
I didn't realize that he fought so many demons. When my father would come back in town, I would get a letter, I'd get a card, I'd get something for my birthday, I'd get a Christmas gift. He didn't know how to be a part of my life. He didn't know how to be the father that a child needs.
He personally saw things in himself like, hey, that's way too much like my dad. And I think maybe that might have scared him. Several times I've personally heard him say, how can I go on being Charles Manson's son?
It was in the afternoon, my freshman year, and they pulled me out of school. I didn't know why yet. My mom didn't come pick me up. Nobody told me what was going on yet. Because they were just telling me how sorry they were, and I'm like, what's going on, Mom said that she got a call and said that my father pulled on the side of the road and shot himself. On one side, Charles Manson, he's family, and I want to speak with him. I want to have a conversation. I want to get to know him. And then on the other hand, I'm mad. I'm angry. I hate him.
I don't think he passed. I think he changed. He may be more powerful in some ways than he's ever been.
I was just like, this is just insanity.
She has Q3 numbers ready for you.
Awesome.
New assistant, Larry?
Yeah, this is Frank.
Hey there.
Me and the missus were watching Reels over the weekend, and I learned that Robin Williams used to hire real homeless people to work as extras in all of his films. So I followed his lead.
How cool is that?
There's always more to the story.
Oh, Frank!
Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I never knew that about Robin Williams. I should get Reels. It's probably already in your TV package. Check the guide. What?
Charles Manson has died at the age of 83.
Even though my grandfather did some horrible things, he still needed to be taken care of in death. My name is Jason Freeman. You don't really want to be known for being Killer's grandson. The pressure that I get from being his grandson is overwhelming. I just want to give my grandfather a proper burial. I met Dale Kickin. My intentions were to claim my grandfather's body. That was Dale's job. Dale was the perfect guy to be in my corner.
I'm feeling very positive that I'm representing the grandson of Charles Manson, that he has a right and interest in the estate. Of course, there are other people with claims we may not know about or may not know the full facts of. So it's a moving target.
As far as the court was concerned, up in Kern County, their big issue there is we have a body. We need to have someone take the body or give us permission to dispose of it. The code section in California basically talks about if there aren't any identifiable immediate relatives, then it would be the next of kin.
So we need to see who else might be out there. We want to err on the side of giving notice to everyone possible. So if there is an heir that has a greater right because they're closer than you are, for instance, if there is a son that you may not even know about yet, that makes the claim, his right would be greater than yours. So we'll be in touch with you in the coming days, and I really thank you for coming in.
One more thing for you tonight, the absurd fight over what to do with Charles Manson's remains.
I shouldn't say I was surprised, no. Actually, I wasn't surprised. But I was to the point of, who does that? I mean, what do you want with a dead body?
There were Matthew Lentz, Michael Bruner, and Michael Channels.
CNN was working with Matthew Robert Lentz for quite some time.
And he claims to be a son of Manson, alleging that his mother was involved in this wild orgy with Manson.
Roberts tried to get a DNA match with genetic material from Charles Manson himself, but the samples were contaminated. But there is another way to establish the family link. Matthew Roberts and Jason Freeman, if they're related, will share Manson's DNA.
They had us on camera to see if we're related.
And we determined with scientific certainty that you do not share a common biological ancestry.
No match on any level.
also had Michael Channel's purported will, which said, I give you everything, and that was pretty much it. As far as Michael Channel's will was concerned, the document that I saw appeared to be a somewhat incoherent document.
Michael Channel's will was not a witness-certified court document will. It was just a written thing from Manson to him. But the court said that the will had no standing.
I never met Michael Bruner. What I knew was that his mom was Mary Bruner.
She was the first woman in the Manson family and was instrumental in helping Charlie, I think, recruit other young women.
It was 1967 and the Summer of Love when Mary Brenner and Charlie Manson had their own Summer of Love, and Mary got pregnant. He was the first child of the first family member with Charles Manson.
Charles certainly believed that Michael was his child. He didn't refer to him as Michael. He referred to him as Sunstone, S-O-N-S-T-O-N-E, Sunstone. He never denied paternity. We had a strong factual case because Mike was a natural child. We had a birth certificate showing Charlie as his father. He had grown up in the home. The only child really that can say they grew up with Charlie in the family until Charlie's arrest and subsequent sentencing to death. Eventually went to live with his grandparents, and they felt it would be best for him to have a legal mother and father and maybe wipe away the stain of having Charles Manson as his father. And as a result, he was adopted by them and raised by them.
In the course of the proceedings in Kern County, in open court, Michael Bruner's attorney acknowledged when pressed by the court that they did not have the original birth certificate identifying his client as being Charles Manson's son, because when you get adopted, you can't get the original birth certificate anymore. And that was the end of that part of the case.
The judge could have gone either way on that, and that's the thing. The judge has to make a decision. That was the one she made. We made our best case.
So it became clear to the court that in what we call an exigent circumstance or an emergency circumstance, which is what to do with the body, that the court could clearly find that Jason was the next of kin and give him the remains.
One more thing for you tonight, and it is the resolution of the absurd fight over what to do with Charles Manson's remains. The notorious murderer died 4 months ago, and there were actually 4 different parties jockeying to get custody of his body.
When it hit me like a ton of bricks. You're receiving Charles Manson's body. It's not just your grandfather. You're going to be taking on more than just your average funeral, cremation, spreading of the ashes.
There's a lot of mixed emotion there. He struggles with a lot. Jason didn't have any other male figures in his life. He doesn't have that person that you came from, that you literally, your bloodline. Jason's not proud of his grandfather.
I knew that there'd be a time where we got to be face to face. I just didn't realize it was going to be at your death. You look at him and you see the makeup and the job that they did. You're just waiting for them to wake back up.
I love you, man.
I mean, it's just such a drama scene with that guy.
This is a funeral, not a circus.
It was like a surreal moment.
Jill, this wine is fancy.
Gotta live a little, right? I mean, Bill and I were watching Reels during dinner last night, and would you believe that Johnny Depp spent $30,000 on wine in just 1 month?
Huh, really?
I wonder what he drinks.
Maybe Chardonnay, matey.
Is that your pirate?
There's always more to the story. Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I did not know that about Johnny Depp. Wish I had Reels.
It's probably in your TV package. Just check your guide.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be related to Charles Manson.
4 months ago, there were actually 4 different parties jockeying to get custody of his body.
Jason's not proud of his grandfather.
I wish I could say there were some moments that I can embrace to cling to and really have a relationship with my grandfather, Charles Manson. Because of the situation that was going on, the evil things that he was involved with, I didn't have that.
You have a prepaid call from an inmate at the California State Prison, Corcoran, California.
So my grandfather's first conversation, he started venting about his case. He thought that his rights were taken from him. He was wrongfully accused for the murders that he wasn't present at.
I had to put you in jail. You know how dangerous that is? Give me my gun and my freedom.
I was still angry about my father's death. And I was pointing that finger right at him.
Imagine a guy that would commit suicide because he couldn't stand what somebody else did. That guy must have been something. Boy, he was really warped, man.
When Jason was interacting with Charles, I was really shocked. I didn't like it at all. He was a grown man. I guess I can't stop him, but I did not like it.
I really wanted to know what they talked about. Like, you don't tell him where we lived or anything. I mean, the fact that he was in California, I was good with that. Like, I know he's not coming here, so, you know.
You have a prepaid call from the California State Prison, Corcoran, California. Only I can lock me up. Everything in the world is in my mind. I rule me. Me's all there is to me. See it?
Last year, we were in my garage and Manson had called him and he put him on speakerphone.
Everybody. I'm everywhere. I'm everything. I'm nothing. I never was. I've always been. I know, but I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. If I don't know that I don't know, how could I know what knowing is?
I started thinking to myself, here's my buddy, and trying to get some answers and some soul searching, and this is the conversation that he gets with his grandfather. It wasn't much of a conversation, it was just Charles Manson talking.
I could tell you things about spiders and solitary confinement that you wouldn't believe. You can't be too smart. You've got to be on a low-life level to understand the low-life consideration.
At that point, I didn't know how good it was for him emotionally to continue to make these phone calls to the prison. But it also wasn't my business. My job was just to support him.
I tried to tell my son that. I said, Jason, he's a criminal. He's always going to be a criminal. He just is who he is.
Most people's childhood memories are their grandpa bouncing on their knee, or grandpa usually teasing their grandsons, and Jason never had that from his biological father, and never had that from his grandfather. So I think it's Jason's inner need to connect with his roots.
Thank you for being there for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Seeing my grandfather for the first time, it was like a surreal moment. And you look at him and you see the makeup and the job that they did. You're just waiting for them to wake back up.
Good job, honey.
I feel like I'm shaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think you look at Jason and you think, maybe, your one inclination would be, well, yeah, he's out for publicity maybe. He's trying to make some money. And all those things would be possible. And being a newspaper reporter, I would have that skepticism naturally. But I do think that there was a genuine connection as it related to family. And not in the Manson family sense, but in the family sense.
I always believe that no matter how bad a person is, there is truly someone who loves them.
No, I couldn't.
I remember the night when Charlie passed away, and it was on the news. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, man, what's going to happen when they're going to do a service? And little did I know that a few months later, that call would come to me. And I did have to take a moment to pause. And I thought, wow, is this something I should do? But I need to support Jason. So this is what's been going through my mind. And I'm just sharing these things with you.
Yeah.
And you can tell me whether you like it or not. You've been the one over the last several months, especially, reaching out to do something that others wanted to do, maybe for different reasons. As I normally do a service, I talk about surviving family members, and to focus really, I would think it's mainly just the 5 of you, right? You two and your 3 boys?
Yeah.
And to acknowledge that in this service, that you are the surviving family members.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel good to you? Does it seem to fit into what you desire?
Exactly.
Okay. You got the confident assurance that that's what I'll do for you.
The other people you're inviting, what's their relationship? They're just your close acquaintances, kind of your support group?
It's been mainly his grandpa's support group.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We all were committed to keep it as confidential as possible. And Jason had shared specifically, I don't want this to become a circus.
I feel at peace now. I feel at peace more today than I did this morning or last night.
So, everybody's here. Everybody that was close to your grandpa?
A lot of inmates, notorious inmates, get letters in prison. For some reason, people are attracted to them.
They may write to them in prison. It makes them feel, outside the law. I think the whole appeal of Manson is the same appeal that there might have been for any outlaw.
I started writing Charlie in 1999. It was more like, I wonder if he'd write back. It was curiosity. I wrote a poem and he called, and the rest is history. We've just maintained this friendship.
I learned so much from you.
A buddy of mine called me and said, hey man, you need to turn on this news channel, quick. And I said, why? He said, man, do it quick. So I turned it on, and sure enough, there was Jason Friedman. So I found him.
He opened up and shared with me how he really, truly loved my grandfather.
I love you, Charlie. You're a warrior. It's hard to believe he's been on the ground for 4 months, huh? Look that good. Who else could do that?
JJ cried more than I think I've ever seen a grown man cry in my life. I mean, he was to the point where he was like, and I'm like, this is, what the hell is going on? I mean, it's just such a drama scene with that guy. And I don't know, he just thrives on it. It's I don't know what his infatuation is with Charles Manson, but there's something not right, because I mean, there's more to life, and now he's dead, so now what?
Could you do me a favor and see how it's going out there?
I will in a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
From here on, this is yours. You're gonna protect and fight and do whatever, because we're not here everybody. So I'm not gonna let any of this go on.
I knew in my heart that Jason Freeman only wanted to know who his grandpa was. And I also knew that just from talking to him that he was fed a lot of misinformation, just a lot of lies. And I wanted to be there to let Jason know that, his grandfather wasn't this crazed killer.
Charles Manson was ultimately convicted of murder, but more importantly, conspiracy to murder, because he wasn't actually physically at these scenes. He was the mastermind that orchestrated all of these killings.
He was a damn good man, a human being.
I would think that the average Manson fan or follower who was not serving time in prison for actually killing on his behalf, that person strikes me as someone who does not mind being associated with someone who is considered evil.
This is a funeral, not a circus.
From what I've sat back and watched, the followers, the close friends, there's some real not right.
I love you, man.
I would be embarrassed about any association And I think that's how most people are. You know, they don't want their heroes to be at least morally inferior to them.
What do you do with these people? Should they be buried? What if you were buried next to Charles Manson, if he elected to be buried? What if you had a relative? What if your parents were buried next to him?
Charles Manson, he ultimately died from the cancer. A much more pleasant death than Sharon Tate and the other victims dealt with. To glorify a serial killer makes no sense to me at all.
I'm just glad that Manson is dead and gone. I know that he's going to live on in the minds of some people for whatever reasons they have, devil worshippers or stoners or whatever. I define Manson as despicable, a pile of garbage.
It was not normal, typical funeral behavior, whatever that would be.
They have a sympathy for Charles Manson.
A lot of people were able to put things that mattered to them in the casket.
What the hell is going on?
Dad, can I come out now?
Sounds like little Brandon got himself grounded, huh?
Oh, actually, we were watching Reels last night before bed, and we learned that Prince, when he was a kid, got locked in his room for 6 weeks.
Huh. Prince did become a musical genius.
Thank you. There he goes. There he goes. Sounding good, sweetie.
Not even close.
Keep it up.
There's always more to the story. Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I didn't know that about Prince. You know, I wish we had Reels.
Probably already do. Check your guide.
Most people's childhood memories are their grandpa bouncing on their knee. Jason never had that.
Jason's not proud of his grandfather.
My grandfather caused a lot of pain, but everybody needs to be taken care of when they die. I wish I could say there were some moments that I can embrace to cling to and really have a relationship with my grandfather.
Everybody's here. Everybody that was close to your grandpa.
His grandfather wasn't this crazed killer.
The followers, I mean, there's some real not right. It was not normal, typical funeral behavior, whatever that would be. Which, granted, this was not the normal funeral. But my God, I mean, the production this guy put on was just over the top.
Love you, Charlie.
He was just too much.
I was involved with Charlie as a friend and confidant, so to speak. When I first talked to Jason, I knew who he was as far as being a grandson. I guess just from my own emotional standpoint, I would have wanted him to know that, number one, Charlie wasn't who and what was reflected by the media for 50 years.
There are people who think Charles Manson was a good man and loved him and defend him because they thought he was wrongly convicted. Many of them just simply don't understand conspiracy law, and that they said, well, he was never there, he didn't kill anyone, therefore he's innocent. That's not true. If you orchestrate a series of murders, you are still part of the crime.
A lot of people were able to put things that mattered to them in the casket with Charlie. There was an eagle feather on his chest. There were necklaces, there were flags, there were rings, there was an iron cross. It was perfect.
Charlie Manson was considered by some a mystic. So he managed to get this whole kind of underbelly of people who followed him, even after he was in prison. And these were not official family members per se, but they could have been.
First of all, like, I wouldn't say that I am drawn to Charles Manson, like even now, even though I would call myself in some people's eyes like the most very over-the-top Charles Manson supporter, or more specifically, a supporter of the truth about Charles Manson. And I'll say it again, like, no, the trial was it wasn't real. He wasn't a cult leader. He didn't order those murders. He didn't have a bunch of brainwashed zombies trying to start a race war. Okay? Drugs, drug dealing, shady people, crazy going on. Happens.
Billy is completely passionate, 100% on my grandfather's bandwagon.
I wanted him to know that his grandfather was not Satan, that he was not the orchestrator of these murders, that he wasn't the guy that could boom shakalaka, as it's now known as of today, boom shakalaka somebody into being their subservient killer zombie, and that there were potentially other truths or facts or possibilities of what had actually happened.
What if you're wrong about who Charles Manson is?
No, I'm not wrong. That's just like, I mean, what if the moon is made of green cheese? I mean, like, I'm not wrong. First of all, I'm not wrong about the trial. I'm not wrong about the violation of due process. I'm not wrong that there were people committing crimes under color of law during that whole show of a circus.
Consider the possibility.
No, I'm not considering that possibility. No, I'm not. Can I smoke a cigarette real quick? I gotta.
I think that the people who feel that he's innocent, they believe that Charles Manson's alienation mirrors their own. And so they have a sympathy for Charles Manson that is rooted in their own sort of personal struggle.
They never broke that man. Never.
What can be the possible appeal of a scroungy, dog-like, dark messiah who committed murders 5 decades ago? What is the appeal?
With Jason caring about people as much as he does, you know, they got into his head. You know, they got into his thoughts and they kind of took his goal and tried to make it their own.
Good. Grey Wolf asked me if I mind if he put a rebel flag on my grandfather's casket. Who am I to ask an elder not to do it?
I was indifferent. I mean, you know, there was a different time. As Charlie got older, he was kind of stuck in that time.
Men in the South stood up for independence of choice, independence of being. It's a representation of someone standing up for liberty. I don't think he passed. I think he changed. I mean, we're all still here, man. Nobody goes anywhere. He may be more powerful in some ways than he's ever been.
Every choice we make, there's a positive result or there's a negative consequence.
I'll do a service even for a mass murderer like Charlie Manson.
I was shaken. I just couldn't believe he was going there.
It didn't matter to me.
Billy Graham is about to get up and choke the life out of Pastor Mark with both of these hands right on top of Charlie's casket. That's how offended I was. Yeah, so I was boiling.
Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Watch us on YouTube. Reels.
One of the greatest stars in the history of Hollywood is gone.
She was a very heavy drinker.
This autopsy tells me more about how he lived than how he died.
He took everything to the extreme.
I know I have a very self-destructive tendency.
But she definitely had an amazing life.
Autopsy unveils.
It was not normal, typical funeral behavior. If he would have been left to the prison, they would have just discarded the remains in the trash.
I know my grandfather made some choices that hurt people. My grandfather caused my family a lot of pain. At the end, he just needed to be taken care of properly, like every elder should be.
His grandfather was not the orchestrator of these murders.
He was a damn good man.
He was the mastermind that orchestrated all of these killings.
I think that the people who feel that he's innocent, they believe that Charles Manson's alienation mirrors their own.
I don't think he passed. I think he changed. He may be more powerful in some ways than he's ever been.
As we gather, this is a time of significance. It's a time of reflection. It's a time to remember. But also, it's a time to seek where do we go from here.
Manson, when he was born, was imprinted with this image of God that had been, destroyed in a sense by his actions, but it's still there.
Greater love has no one than this, that he laid down his life for his friends.
So because of that, yeah, I'll step up. I'll step before people to do a service, even for a mass murderer like Charlie Manson.
I'll just remind you a little bit of his life. It was at the General Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio, on Sunday, November 11th, 1934, that Charles Maddox entered into this world. In what was an unhealthy environment at that time, he was born to a 16-year-old girl who was not quite yet prepared for motherhood. Some of God's word and some other words that I believe can be of benefit.
I appreciate the pastor. The pastor was very funeral-like. I mean, it all stayed pretty. It didn't get too personal, which, how it couldn't really.
The challenging part for Charlie is that this unhealthy environment that he was a part of for his early years followed him for the rest of his life, and it was a challenge. There are choices that we make, and I am reminded that every choice we make, there's a positive result or there's a negative consequence. There were also choices that he made as well, and it created an attitude and actions that would impact himself and, of course, influence many others.
He was talking about all the mistakes Manson made. Manson, the reason why Manson went down that road. We just wasn't the time or the place for that.
Even in death, for Charlie, rest and peace were not to be found until today.
So I spontaneously, in my mind, was picturing, wow, this played right into the Charlie mythos, because this rock and roll, heavy metal, wrestling Billy Graham, what am I doing here, is about to get up and choke the life out of Pastor Mark with both of these hands right on top of Charlie's casket. That's how offended I was. Yeah, so I was boiling.
Seems like all of those things have brought a sense of tension and difficulty.
It took everything in me not to get up and embarrass the hell out of that guy. And I was shaken. I just couldn't believe he was going there.
Every choice we make, there's a positive result, a negative consequence. And I had to measure in this the sense of what positives could come out of that, what would be the negatives. Even the worst of persons has a right to at least have a burial.
There may be a person or two here today who would want to take a moment to share a word of your interaction with Charlie that we know would bring an encouragement to the family. So I just want to give you a moment to see if anyone would like to do that.
When Grey Wolf got up to speak, I held my breath. I have nothing but the utmost respect for that man.
I'd like to focus on some things that Charlie brought my attention to and the world's attention to. We can all do it together right now by breathing in and breathing out. We do it all the time. Trees sustains the air that we breathe moment to moment. And then the animals that tend the garden, that support us all, and the entire web of life, day to day. And that's what this man stood for.
Right on, brother.
Amen.
Amen.
When Grey Wolf finished, I kind of looked over my shoulder this way, expecting that one of those other people left was going to get up. And then no, instead, I not only see no one moving, but then I see Pastor Mark basically starting to make his strides toward the front, like, okay, wrap it up. Half my body I was trying to still sit down, and the other half was being pulled to the thing.
I was asked to get up and speak, but I just couldn't. When Billy stood up and said, I'll speak, it was kind of relief.
If anybody can walk away from here in true honor today, it's the spirit of truth that comes with that consciousness. And I just ask you, please, if you only ever remember one thing from me, it's not about me, but please, we've got to get the truth out there.
I'm from Ohio, and we always take care of our own. I think of it this way, you know, if he did his time, and when he passed away, it was time for the family to take over. He had a life sentence. He didn't have a soul sentence. His physical body had a life sentence to be locked up, and he served his time. You know, when he died, that was it. Time served. You know, it was time for me to step up.
What really led to the sacrifice that this person made on account of the actions of other people, and a society that would let a human being be turned into the devil incarnate. Because this is not the devil, and it never was.
Charles Manson was arrested and convicted of 9 brutal murders. I don't like to romanticize serial killers. I've seen the destruction they do to the family members. Ultimately, the murder is harder on the family members of the victim. Even in Sharon Tate's case, she only died once. Family members who survive a murder of their loved ones die that death every single day. They have to live it over in the courtroom. They have to live it in their daily lives. So I've seen what serial killers do to families and, of course, to their victims. We should not praise them. We should not glorify them. We should shun them.
My grandfather caused my family a lot of pain, but everybody needs to be taken care of when they die.
Manson's grandson, I think he sincerely wanted the body and to dispose of it his own way.
I felt like he was being drawn off the path that he knew he wanted. There's a lot of suppressed feelings.
Charles Manson is part of my journey. I can't change how he's going to be remembered. You know, he's a historical figure that'll always go down in history. It came down to me protecting my family. We always take care of our own.
Okay.
All of these people who have since shown up after Charlie's death, they were using Jason.
This is our moment. It isn't just my moment.
Here, brother.
Those of you who wish, you can actually just push in. It will roll in very easy, so don't be surprised. Jason, come on over here. Go ahead and press that right there until the door's closed.
I just want to give my grandfather just a little bit of dignity.
What are you doing with the bag? We're gonna scatter them tonight.
I told my son, I said, Jason, just keep a low profile and it's nobody's business.
She has Q3 numbers ready for you.
Awesome.
New assistant, Larry?
Yeah, this is Frank.
Hey there.
Me and the missus were watching Reels over the weekend, and I learned that Robin Williams used to hire real homeless people to work as extras in all of his films. So I followed his lead.
Huh. How cool is that?
There's always more to the story.
Oh, Frank!
Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I never knew that about Robin Williams. I should get Reels. It's probably already in your TV package. Check the guide. What?
Jason didn't have any other male figure in his life.
Grandfather wasn't this crazed killer.
They got into his head.
He was a damn good man.
It isn't just my moment. This is our moment.
It's going to be probably 3.5 hours now. So you're welcome to stay. Anything you want to do, if you want to stay right here, or just, I know you've got some other things going on here, so I'm going to leave you guys to do what you want.
Thank you, Les.
As this procedure was going, you know, my mother, my father, Charles Manson Jr., crossed my mind. When we pushed him into the fire as a group, it was like a pressure release valve that just lifted a lot of weight off my shoulders. For years, anytime you look up Charles Manson, you see the murders. We can put a lot of stuff behind us now. It was an opportunity for me to put some things to rest and close some doors and open some new doors. Mom, we came down a long road.
Has he been cremated?
He's in the cremation center right now. He went in at 1 o'clock.
I was so glad it was just like a private thing. I told my son, I said, Jason, just keep a low profile and it's nobody's business.
What are you doing with the vet?
We're going to scatter them tonight, somewhere here outside of town.
Yeah, we got the location figured out. It'll be at a stream in the woods.
What it would have taken to put him in the ground, an unmarked grave, it would have been just complete chaos, and it probably would have been defaced, and it would have just been, I'm sure, a complete spectacle. So this was the best decision that we felt we could have made.
If we're brought to life from the ground, that's just where I put him back.
They'll never find him up here.
Only in spirit.
Yeah, right.
This is so the best ever. Equal potential benefits.
I know we didn't want the location of the ashes being distributed because I didn't want it to become a tourist attraction. I didn't want people to come in and start to pull up dirt and sell them and say they're ashes. You know, it was a secret place that I hope it isn't ever revealed. We all promised to keep that secret and keep it amongst ourselves, and that's what we're going to do. So the ashes are in here. We all can walk back, and while I'm walking, I'm gonna spread some ashes around the rock lines and the tree lines and stuff, and of course it's all gonna run down into the river one day from the water. I definitely didn't want to open the ashes up to be an opportunity for someone to steal them or do whatever they wanted to with them, but I felt in my heart that other people would love to spread my grandfather's ashes.
It had gotten really cold after the sun went down, so I had gone back to the vehicle as everybody else was kind of doing their thing, making their way back. And every person proceeds to come out with ashes on their face. They literally spread ashes on their faces. I was just like, this is just insanity. To me, I thought, this is a moment that people know to act right, but obviously after seeing that, it like just appalls me that people think this is okay. We just have completely veered off of what you're trying to do. With Jason caring about people as much as he does, you know, he wanted to try and keep everybody in the loop and keep everybody happy and keep all of this going and juggle, juggle, juggle. You know, they got into his thoughts.
This ring was cremated with my grandfather and came back out. This ring went through the fire with him. This ring was on his chest. I feel a little closer to my grandfather when I wear it. He's my grandfather. That's why I want to feel closer to him. He's got a spiritual side of him that not too many people understand, but I do. I'm his grandson. I can't look at him as just being evil, because there's good in everybody.
I just think that, you know, you have a choice at a certain point whether to sort of embrace the dark side, and it doesn't get much darker than Charlie Manson in terms of the bad vibe, the dark karma that he's gonna generate. And to say, yeah, I want some of that. It's like someone who embraces heroin.
I wanted to meet somebody who was part of the Manson family that lived at Spawn Ranch.
My husband wanted Charles Manson incorporated somehow into his life. Ultimately, to me, it was his family member. I mean, you can take on the world, but you have to do it in a certain way. You know, it was not a path that he had originally set out on.
Yeah, I was just curious what it was like spending time with my grandfather before and then after the murders.
I was there pretty much the whole time. There's good memories and there's bad memories.
Jill, this wine is fancy.
Gotta live a little, right? I mean, Bill and I were watching reels during dinner last night, and would you believe that Johnny Depp spent $30,000 on wine in just 1 month?
Huh, really?
I wonder what he drinks.
Maybe Chardonnay, matey.
Is that your pirate?
There's always more to the story. Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I did not know that about Johnny Depp. Wish I had reels.
It's probably in your TV package. Just check your guide.
My grandfather caused a lot of pain, but everybody needs to be taken care of when they die.
He was a damn good man.
Charles Manson was convicted of 9 brutal murders.
I felt like he was being drawn off the path that he knew he wanted.
I'm his grandson. I can't look at him as just being evil, because there's good in everybody. I wanted to meet somebody who was part of the Manson family that lived at Spawn Ranch. It was important for me to meet a Manson family member to really dig into their mind on what was really going on back when they were living on the ranch. That was Diane Lake.
I never heard about you until, you know, it was in the news.
Yeah, I was just curious what it was like spending time with my grandfather.
He just had this, you know, this way about him. Instantly, I felt loved and adored, you know, and Charlie, you know, immediately took me under his wing and, you know, showed me affection. And I think that part of the hold that he had on me and all the girls is that he had this uncanny way of making each one of us feel like we were his favorite. You know, we were the most loved.
I still have that same question with me.
Well, he had this really, you know, kind of, and it was probably a blessing and a curse, But he had this ability to read people and determine what their weaknesses were and what they needed. And he could provide it or make you feel like he was providing that love or that security or that, it made you feel worthy and special. He did. And he was in the beginning, he was very playful and kind of impish. I mean, I've used that word before and people go, huh? But he was, he was, he liked his candy and root beer and, he wasn't
still a kid.
He wasn't a beer drinker kind of guy. I mean, he was, and he was always singing his songs and making up songs and, we sang along and, it was an awesome kind of thing in the beginning. Things just started to, get strange, far out.
There's a lot of questions in my own mind. If he's innocent, if he's guilty, what he's guilty of, where's the truth lay at? Because I know it doesn't lay at the courthouse. I don't believe that.
Right. But he was definitely instrumental in creating this maelstrom, that happened. I think it was his delusion. And he got other people to believe in it. He was the instigator. I was there pretty much the whole time. Charles Manson, your grandfather, descended into a psychotic, I think, delusion. These people really embraced and enfolded his delusion.
Everybody has a choice. Everybody's got a choice in life. We can go left or we can go right. On one side, he's family, and then on the other hand, my grandfather made some choices that hurt people.
Innocent people were murdered for the reason that Manson and the family wanted to start a race war. I mean, that's about the basest motive that you could possibly dream up.
And I had this epiphany that kind of, because one of my big questions has always been, how could these people that I loved and, was close to, how could they have actually, killed people, right? I mean, physically, where the rubber meets the road, how could they do that? I mean, it's one thing in your head to talk about, are you willing to die for me? Are you willing to kill for me? Are you willing to kill,
and those are things
in order to not be killed? Yes, exactly. But to me, it was a mind game. I mean, it's really hard to explain, but we had to be willing to kill in order to not have to or to not be killed ourselves. That was, because he was always playing mind games. He didn't have anybody saying, no, you're wrong, that's impossible.
Yeah.
This isn't going to happen. He would, he would twist the truth. And he said that we didn't need, that eating was a mind thing, that you didn't need food, right? And that pain, he, held my hand and other people's fingers over a candle flame. Because it was all in our mind. It did not hurt. Well, it did hurt, and you could only do it for so long, but I tried. I tried to train my brain that it didn't hurt, you know, but it did, and it smelled bad too.
Yeah.
So You know, he was always doing that kind of thing. So when, you know, when I got the, you know, how to kill somebody lesson with the knife, you know, I didn't take that as like for real. It was a game. You've had to live with, you know, under the, as I have, that Charles Manson has become the icon of evil. I know that's, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Diane's story was like a three-piece combination that put me on the ground. It was a reality check. I kept some ashes back for myself.
I don't have the patience to try and really understand.
Charles Manson. That's all I'm going to be known for.
Family bloodlines continue forever.
Dad, can I come out now?
Sounds like little Brandon got himself grounded, huh?
Oh, actually, we were watching Reels last night before bed, and we learned that Prince, when he was a kid, got locked in his room for 6 weeks.
Huh. Prince did become a musical genius.
Thank you. There he goes. There he goes. Sounding good, sweetie.
Not even close.
Keep it up.
There's always more to the story. Reels. Real lives, real stories, real celebrities.
I didn't know that about Prince. No, I wish we had Reels.
Probably already do. Check your guide.
His grandfather was not the orchestrator of these murders.
They got into his head.
He was a damn good man.
I was there. He was definitely instrumental in creating this maelstrom.
Diane's story was a reality check.
I don't have as big a heart for people that my husband does. But you've seen the support hasn't been. I don't agree with a lot of what Charlie's done. I don't agree with the people that are around. I don't have the patience to try and really understand. Jason's dad, he had committed suicide when Jason was 16. Just so many unanswered questions. He blamed Charlie for a long time. And he would express that to me, that he blamed his grandfather for his dad killing himself. But then Charles Manson ultimately was his family member. And it's so hard to explain until you've been put in that position, but it's that line of having a family member that commits a crime, and it's a horrendous crime, paying their entire life for it, and trying to do the right thing. But then I think in the end was kind of like, why hold on to this? Why, I mean, it was his point of letting that go. With family bloodlines, although they continue forever, I felt like that chain stopped at Jason. Whatever had been going on through those years and the evil and the negativity, that wasn't going to continue in our family.
It's just going to keep me in bondage to that name, and that's all I'm going to be known for. I don't want to wear that on my shoulders. You know, I kept some ashes back for myself because I wanted to have part of my grandfather. I'm going home. I'm gonna go out on a boat about 6 miles out, and I'm gonna dump the rest of the ashes out there. And I'm gonna put Manson's legacy behind me and move forward with my family. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was just to get my grandfather to the funeral home and have him cremated so we could spread his ashes. It just seemed like it was very difficult. I can't defend my grandfather on his deathbed fighting against society. That's not my job. I wanted to have peace of mind. I want him to understand who my family is, regardless of his action. It was really hard for me to come to accept what my grandfather is. The biggest notorious serial killer across the world. He's the face of evil. You know, people would definitely ask me, how do I come to grasp with that? The ashes. I just want to get rid of it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of dealing with it. I've got my own path. I've got my own walk in life with my family. My identity is not Charles Manson.